So welcome everybody to November Tech Talk with Jared from Xero, and today we are going to cover some of the Xero practice management tools that are really useful for bookkeepers and BAS agents. And so we'll have a bit of a look at the Xero platform and not the accounting software, because we know that. So this is more about the tools that are good for you to run your practice. So we'll have a bit of a demo. As usual, there'll be time for questions at the end. If you've got questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat box or the Q&A, and we'll manage them throughout if we can, or we'll get to them at the end. So over to you, Jared.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to join in today to hear a bit more about Xero Practice Manager specifically, and going through Xero's set of practice tools. So I'm just going to share my screen to start, and hopefully everyone can see my face on a XPM best practice workflows slide, but we'll kick off here. So just a bit of an introduction about who I am. Again, my name's Jared. I work as an implementation consultant here at Xero, and I'm based out of our Sydney office. So as you can maybe tell behind me, I'm actually physically in the office, a bit of a change for myself, which has been nice, kind of seeing everyone in the office again. And you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm not actually originally from Australia. I did join the Xero team just a little over 4 years ago in Toronto, in Canada. So started there, moved over to Sydney a couple of years ago, and I've been working on the wider partner consulting team since. So it's been a really great experience. Really my role and our team, what we do is we focus on guiding partners through the transition to the cloud. So making use of Xero's practice tools to help improve their business, and many of which we'll take a look at today. So just a bit of an overview of what we'll be going through. We'll be taking a look at an end-to-end workflow for a common bookkeeping engagement for one of our clients. So throughout the demonstration, we'll take a look at utilizing Xero's set of practice tools to minimize our admin tasks, drive efficiency, and provide value to our clients, with a focus on Xero Practice Manager. Now, as for an agenda of what we'll cover throughout today's session, we'll start off with just, again, a very brief overview of the Xero platform. We'll then walk through the demonstration, spending a majority of our time in Xero Practice Manager. Throughout Xero Practice Manager, we'll set up a job for a client that we work with, and we'll discuss the process of lodging BAS and how we can actually automate that through Xero Tax if we aren't already doing so today. And we'll also show how you can, with your engagements in XPM, invoice directly through to Xero Blue. So there's no additional admin work. Essentially, the job that you're working on becomes the invoice and doesn't require any typing or rework to create and generate that invoice. Lastly, we're going to touch a little bit on as well how we can maybe widen our service offerings if we aren't providing this already today, through the use of Xero's report templates and Xero HQ to quickly prepare a management report. And then at the end, we'll just do a quick recap. We'll cover over what we talked about today and some possible next steps if you're interested in getting set up. Now, just again, a bit of a brief overview of what Xero entails before we jump into today's demonstration. With this visual on screen, it can be a bit overwhelming to start, but essentially, I just want to take a moment to explain how the Xero Blue file that a lot of you are familiar with, where you can complete that bookkeeping work, interacts with our practice tools. So what we have at the core in the middle of the screen here with the blue icon that says Xero is going to represent that Xero Blue file where all of that transactional data lives and where we complete that bookkeeping work. This data will then flow directly to our practice tools like XPM, Xero Tax, our special purpose financial reports, as well as our management reports, and help eliminate the need to rekey any of that financial information. So it's going to be really helpful when it comes to preparing our clients' activity statements and management reports. So throughout today's demo, we'll highlight how this is done. And once we do have that job set up for our client in XPM, we can then use that data from the Xero Blue file to complete that compliance work quite quickly. And obviously adding a ton of value for our client and hopefully less time than what we may be doing so today. So let's take a look. I'm just going to transition from our slide deck here into Xero Practice Manager. Hopefully everyone can see on screen. I have a green bar at the top. It says Blue Bear Bookkeeping with my name, Jared Kerr, as the staff member. So we'll begin our demonstration here in XPM is what I'll address it as throughout today's demo, just a short form for Xero Practice Manager. And we're on the dashboard. So one thing to note is I just have this open in a Google Chrome browser, making it accessible for my staff really wherever they might be working. Very common today, might be working from home, in the office. It doesn't require any additional software. So all you really need is an internet connection to be able to access Xero Practice Manager. Now the dashboard, what we're on, this gives a high level overview to our staff members, a really as well an accurate snapshot of their overall billable time and their productivity percentage for the week so far. So it's really a great way for our staff to be able to keep focused on doing their chargeable work. And what we see right away with this time summary is each staff member is going to see how much time they've already posted. So as they're going throughout the week, they can compare that to their capacity targets, which appear here in gray. And just to explain a bit about what's been entered in here already for myself, Jared Kerr, the staff member of Blue Bear Bookkeeping. On Monday, I took a day of annual leave, so 7.5 hours of capacity reducing time has been entered in. In red, we have non-billable time, might just be internal meetings, business development, and the rest of our time, what we see in green is the billable work that we've done towards the jobs we've been assigned. So we can see that it directly correlates with that productivity wheel on the right. In the middle, I can see those hours that have been added up throughout the week of how much time I've spent towards those billable hours and my target here on the outside. So my expected productivity of about 75%. I'm a little bit short, but a really easy way to track that throughout the week and hopefully make that up before the end of the day on Friday. Now we can also enter time in quite easily from the dashboard, just here in the top left, the enter time option. We'll go through this a little bit more in detail when we're on the job we're working with today, and we'll come back in terms of how we can enter time. But as a staff member in the practice, it's again, really easily that I can see how I'm staying on track with my target of my chargeable work as I go throughout the week. But from here, we'll move into the second tab here at the top, where it says clients. Now, this is where we're going to be able to see and manage all of our clients, client groups, and contacts that we work with. And what we can see beside all clients is a drop-down menu where we can actually create filters to just look at a certain subset of clients. So for example, if I maybe wanted to see clients of a specific business structure, I can pull up all my partnership clients. Might only have one here today. Or all the clients that fall under a specific staff member. So myself, I might just want to see the clients I work with so that I can just have a high level overview of those clients quite quickly as well. Now, each staff member will need to build these filters if they'd like to see them. It is individual to everyone's login so that they can see a subset or breakdown of those clients. Now, as well, we can also search for our clients here in the top right. Just going to move my Zoom window that I don't think you guys can see, that's just covering it. But here in the top right, we have this little search icon here. It's the global search functionality. And it's super helpful because we can access this from any screen within XPM to locate a client record. So if we're back on the dashboard, if we're looking at a tax, our tax returns or activity statements rather, we can easily still search for our clients from here. So what I'm going to do is actually just search for a client that we're going to work with today, which is Pip and Pop Partners. You can see it pop up here quite quickly. And I'll just click into that to pull up the client record. Now within the client record, what we have here to start is across the top, just some key metrics of the client debtor amounts and our current WIP. So this is really crucial, just showing us how much our client owes, how much work we've done that we haven't invoiced yet as well. And we also have several tabs below that to navigate to any other record within the actual client as well. So if we want to maybe take a look at some of the jobs we have on the go, invoices we've already sent out, or maybe some of the activity statements, those will fall under the tax returns, for example. We can click in and see that information quite quickly. Now below that, we see a lot of our standard fields that we would be familiar with. We have our tax and company information here down the middle, some contact details in the top right. But we also have the ability to create custom fields. And these appear just below here. You can kind of see it in some faint gray text beside services provided and below that as well. But essentially, these are fully customizable. You can create your own fields and really utilize this to gather information about your clients in one spot. So for example, I've created these services provided custom fields, filled out what services we provide and the frequency as well. And we could use this for targeted marketing towards clients as well. So for example, if maybe we didn't provide management reporting to this client, it could be a way that we run a report in XPM, pull up the clients that we have no information entered into the management reports field, and reach out to those clients to expand our service offerings to them as well. So really helpful to increase our business. Now, if you're already using Xero Tax, you may already have all of your clients in Xero Tax or XPM today. And all you'll need to do is turn on that additional functionality to have the time and billing to be able to track your jobs in XPM. Now, if you're unsure of whether you have XPM or Xero Tax, you're not really sure because they do look quite similar. The way that you can differentiate if you have the additional features turned on or not is that Xero Tax won't have the dashboard and the jobs tab, for example. So when you log into Xero Tax, it takes you straight to your client list, look quite similar to the screen you were on previously. If you do have the dashboard and jobs tab, you'll have XPM already enabled, but you can definitely still utilize Xero Tax as a standalone solution. And in either scenario, if you aren't using Xero Tax or XPM and you want to have your client list imported, we do offer services to help provide that so you don't have to manually key in all of your clients to Xero Tax or XPM. Just recommend reaching out to your Xero account manager about that process and how we can help out with the number of clients that you have so that you can really make that an automated process as well. Now, from here, we're going to jump into our jobs tab. So before we actually create the job for today, we're going to talk a little bit about the workflow of how we can manage the work that we actually have ongoing and how our staff can as well. So just under jobs and the jobs tab, we can see all of the work that we have ongoing, and it's a really good overview of all the jobs in the system. So you can see I don't really have too many jobs, and this is because typically we're going to have one annual job for each regular bookkeeping client we work with. So this is one of our key recommendations when it comes to the best practice model for BAS agents. We set up one annual job for each bookkeeping client, and it keeps the job management really nice and simple and easy to manage. It's also great, really, no matter how you bill your clients. You may have some of your clients that pay a fixed regular fee on a recurring basis, or clients that you invoice based on how much time you've spent. We'll take a look at this a little bit later on and how those invoicing flows will work as well. Now, on this jobs tab, we have the My and the Managed By. Want to take a look at these specifically. The Managed By is super helpful to see a view of all of the jobs practice-wide and see who is responsible for those jobs. So it's really useful for practice managers or partners. You can see if you have a few staff in your practice, you can allocate them as the job manager for the clients whose work that they're going to be doing, and they can easily see a breakdown of those jobs listed here as well. Now on this screen, we'll also just highlight the job state. It's an easy way to be able to see where the job is at, and we can quickly update the state from this page as well. So just from the drop down, we can change that. For example, maybe if some work required a review, we could change this to for review, and a manager could pick it up to review it. Now, I also want to point out on this screen, the progress bar. So we just see it below the start and due date. If I hover over it for this job 24, we see 30%. So what this means, it's really, really valuable. It's going to show us how much time we've actually spent on the job already compared to how much time we've actually budgeted for that job. So it's really great information for staff efficiency and ensuring that we're not exceeding our budgets. So at any really point in the year, you can really come to this page and eyeball how much time is being sent so that you're not blowing out on any of these time budgets and maybe going over, for example, with this one here, you can see that it's highlighted in red if we do go over. Now the My tab as well, super helpful, more so for staff that are completing the work. They can see a breakdown of the job as well as the clients that they are responsible for. It's a really great way for them to keep on track of the jobs that they've been allocated. We can also sort by really any of the fields here as well. So if we wanted to sort by state, we can do so as well, and just have a list of our jobs that we're working on. Now, in a moment, we will jump in and take a look at one of our regular bookkeeping clients and have a closer look at the job that we've set up for the client. But first, we'll take a look at how we can manage our lodgement deadlines when we are just using one job for the year for a regular client. So just here in the tax tab under returns, we have this really great workflow to help manage your lodgement program for activity statements for your clients. So this screen is essentially Xero tax. So whether you have XPM enabled or not, you would have this tax tab available to you. And it's a really simple workflow where you can easily manage the lodgement process for all of your activity statements that you're responsible for across all of your clients, regardless if they're Xero or non-Xero clients. And we can see across the top, we have tabs there, and each tab will show the activity statements in the state, meaning, for example, in draft, it's been created, completed, meaning it's been done, and we can move it on to review and so on. So as long as you are confident that all of your clients' activity statements are showing on this screen here, it's really easy to see where they're up to and be confident that you haven't missed or forgotten about any lodgements. Now, one of the really great releases that we've had in the past year for our BAS agents is automatic activity statements. So this feature, when it is enabled, will automatically pull all of the lodgement obligations for your clients for the period and automatically create them here. So they'll be sitting in this draft tab for us to review at the start of the month or the quarter. And all you need to do is make sure that that setting is enabled in the settings area, and the system will do the rest in terms of creating those draft lodgements. Now, you may have clients in the system whose activity statements you maybe don't prepare, and turning on that automatic activity statements would create it. You can easily turn it off for an individual client and just select the activity statements you want to be created. So that's something that even if you turn it on, you can switch it off for individual clients as well. And like the other areas we've seen so far in XPM, anytime we see this little drop down arrow, it means that we have a filter that we can actually apply to the list of, in this case, activity statements we see on the screen. So if I wanted to maybe create a filter, I've done so already to see any of my outstanding June BAS that may be created here already. If I click on that, we can see it appear here. We may have a list of a few and be able to stay on top of that as we complete the work. Now this BAS, it has automatically been created for me, and it's sitting here in the draft tab with all of the ATO information automatically populated. So that includes the document ID, payslip information, payee and FTP, FBT installment amounts as well. And all I'm going to really need to do is finalize the figures in our Xero client for the file, or sorry, our client's Xero Blue file rather, and publish that BAS report to Xero Tax. So it'll import that information for us automatically, and we can mark it as complete. And then when it's approved, we can send it out for secure electronic signature through document packs or Xero Sign. And we'll review that a little bit later on today and how we can actually utilize that to send out our lodgements, but as well some management reporting. I also do just want to take a moment to mention here as well, what we see on screen, this workflow with our activity statements is Xero Tax. So you can use this as a standalone solution. You don't necessarily have to utilize it with Xero Practice Manager to have the workflow here. So you can still use it for your activity statements, and you can still use Xero Sign for your signing of those activity statements as well. And additionally, if you are a sole practitioner and you would like to start tracking jobs before necessarily getting set up with XPM, Xero Projects can be used as well, and that's available within your Xero Blue file. It's a really easy way to manage your work and track time and expenses against jobs and be able to invoice your client. So it provides a lot of the same functionality, or rather benefits, that XPM provides if you don't have any staff members at the moment, and it can be really quick and easy to set up as well. So just one thing to keep in mind, if it is something that you would be willing to explore and maybe take a look at Xero Projects or even just Xero Tax as a standalone if you aren't utilizing that as of today. Again, I just recommend reaching out to your account manager and they can walk you through the specifics with getting that set up as well.
Jared, I'm going to interrupt you there. So
Yeah.
if we were to use Xero Tax as a standalone, can we bring in non-Xero clients, or is it for Xero only clients? Is there a way of using it, for all of our lodgements, or is
Absolutely
only for Xero clients? So tell us.
Yeah, you can definitely utilize it for all of your clients, Xero or non-Xero clients. The benefit of the clients that are on Xero is going to be able to import that activity statement directly from the Xero Blue file. So for the non-Xero clients, you can still do it. You'll have to manually fill out the information on the form in Xero Tax, and then you can utilize that still for your lodgement, and it will pull that information from the ATO. So you still have a lot of automation for those non-Xero clients, just the additional benefit being importing those statements, so you don't have to manually key the information.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no, great question. Now, really from here, what we're going to do is jump into setting up the engagement for our client PIP and POP partners to really just show that workflow of setting up a job in XPM. So what I'm going to do is, just from the global search again, I'm going to search for the client record. It's going to pull up here where we were before. And I'm actually just going to rather search for the job. I'll actually do it this way instead. It's just the job number that I have created already for this client for their 2021 bookkeeping that we're completing. I have already created the job here as well. So this is the first year we've been engaged by this client. So we weren't ready to offer them a fixed price as of just yet. And because of this, we're going to build a single annual job covering a variety of scope items and invoice them out on the hourly basis at the end of each month. So this structure will give us a really good idea of how much the fixed amount we should offer when we are ready to do so to achieve that automation in the coming years as well. So I'm just going to open up that job from the global search. And one thing to note is that within XPM, we have a ton of job templates and tasks, which are pre-created to help automate our job creation process. So it makes it really quick and easy to set up the job for our ongoing bookkeeping clients. And if we do a lot of automation, or sorry, a lot of customization rather, to the actual job for a specific client, under the options here, we can actually copy the job. So in the next year, if maybe I've gone through and from the template we've used, I've made a lot of different changes, I can copy the job without having to do that next year and have that automated for me as well. Now, if I just scroll throughout here, we see the job info, the schedule information. I see below some tasks, and this is really what the template takes care of, is filling in the detail of the tasks that we have on the actual engagement itself. I don't have to type any of this information out. The job template is what will take care of creating these tasks for us. And we'll come back to that in just a moment. But here at the top with the job information, what we see right away is a description. So this just serves really as an introduction to the invoice, which will be created from this job. So we'll see that in a moment as well. It really helps automate the entire process from the job to creating the invoice. We don't have to spend any time really writing out any text on the invoice in a moment as well. We also have our category here. I'm just going to highlight it so you can see that on screen, which is configurable, and we can choose which categories we might need in our business to be able to see. Now, this is super important because the category can help us separate our different types of engagements or work types. What we're showing today is our job categories based on our billing arrangement for the client. So for this job, we build them based on hourly rates. And later in the session, we'll talk about how we can easily look at a list of all of our hourly rate jobs and see how much work we've done and whether we need to invoice them. So it's really great just to make sure that we don't accumulate too much unbilled time on any client. Now, be aware that if you do have different types of services and engagements that you offer, and you would like to see the income reported in separate income accounts in Xero in your P&L, you can then use these categories to map the different revenue accounts in Xero. And we can also map these to tracking categories, which you might be familiar with. It just really means you get some really great management reporting for your own business. And it can be easily streamlined by setting this up in the beginning and then automatically having that available to you in your Xero Blue file without really any manual coding. Now below, we can also see the job schedule for this job. And this is a job that's ongoing for a 12-month period. So we see it from July 1st, 2020 to the end of July 2021. And we can allocate our staff and our job partner and manager as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the job manager is typically the one that's maybe completing a majority of the work that we have listed here on the job. They should be listed as the manager on the job, and typically the partner maybe being whoever is overseeing or reviewing the work as well. Now, further down, we saw those tasks, which really make up the different components of the job. And we've really kind of taken the simple approach of creating a task for each of the different work to be completed. So a bookkeeping services for each month and a BAS preparation and lodgement for each quarter as well. Now, one thing to note is that we do have that task for our quarterly BAS. It isn't required to manage our lodgements. So as we kind of discussed earlier, we'll use that Xero Tax tab to track our automatic activity statements. But separately, we're having it listed here just so that we can have that itemized on our invoice when we actually send it out to the client. And you'll see what that looks like when we actually send out the invoice for this as well. Now, next to each task, we can see the time estimate. So how much time that we are expected to work on it. That same progress bar we saw earlier as well. So just really a great way to be able to see how we are going against our expected capacity for the job. And one thing as well is we've taken to make sure that these are as accurate as possible for the particular client when setting up the job. And that progress bar is going to show us whether we've gone over or under. Again, that key performance indicator, staff efficiency, which is our actual versus estimated time. Now, we mentioned this as well. We have one bookkeeper who tends to do a majority of the work, the job manager, which we have listed as Jen Kennedy, and she's responsible for the entire job. So we don't necessarily need to specifically allocate these various tasks to staff. However, if we do reallocate our clients or different staff members take on the work, we can explicitly allocate and schedule the tasks, and the staff will actually see them under the job tab, actually, where it says tasks. So they can actually keep on track of those different tasks that they've been allocated to them and the work that they need to complete. So that's really all of our job information. Now, what I want to show is how easy it is for our staff to enter time on the job. We do have a Timesheets tab here outside of what we saw on the dashboard to allocate time. And this will show us a breakdown of all of the time that's been allocated already and where we can actually allocate additional time here at the top as a staff member, maybe after the fact as well. But what we can use and what I recommend is we do have this quick timer functionality in the top right. We can add time by just starting it here and having it ongoing in the background as we complete work, or we can allocate blocks of time. So I might enter in, let's just say 1 hour of work. And I'll just search for the client, the job that we're working on. I can allocate it right down to the task here as well. Just give me 1 second here. We'll just say that this was for our September bookkeeping. Let's go ahead and save. And that will automatically update on my dashboard as well for how much time I've spent against our billable work. So really easy to allocate that time on the fly. Now from here, we'll jump into the financial tab where we're going to see some really crucial insights on this client and what we may have invoiced already. Right away, we do see the dollar amount of our unbilled time or our WIP on this job. And we can see below that the prior invoices that we've issued for this client. And below that or above that as well, we have quotes if we have any that would have been sent out as well. And with the unbilled time, we have these tasks listed here that show a breakdown of what was completed. And essentially these will become the narrations on our invoice. So again, we don't have to retype this information. This is essentially what the invoice is going to look like in our Xero Blue file when we take a look at that in a moment. So really helpful that we don't actually have to go back and change any of this information. Now, before we actually prepare the invoice for the client, this is based on our hourly rates. And what we can do is, for example, override this with a fixed fee if we wanted to as well. And we'll show that when we get to the invoice. Now, before we do that, if we did want to see maybe a breakdown of all of our hourly rated jobs and just to be able to manage them at a high level and just make sure that we are sending out the invoices appropriately for not only this client, but other clients as well, we can use the WIP dashboard just found under the business tab here at the top, work in progress. Now, what this is going to show us is a great spot to do invoicing for our clients. It's going to be showing us a breakdown of all the unbilled time accumulated on those clients and whether we need to maybe get some invoices out to get some cash in the bank. Now, we all we'll see that for all of our service agreement clients where we offer a fixed fee, that we can use a screen to see whether our fee is actually covering the time that we spent on the client. And this overview tab is just really showing me the total time of all of our unbilled time costs in terms, which we'll explore. And the list view is giving us a bit more detail. It's going to show us the specific job and clients that we may need to raise an invoice for. Now, again, the drop down beside our work in progress is going to show us some filtering options, which can be super helpful. I've created one that is called hourly here. So if we remember from the job categories where we've actually set those up as our billing arrangements for each client, we can add a filter to show a breakdown of those that have been allocated to that category here and see a list of those jobs where the clients might actually have some unbilled time accumulated, and we can decide then if we need to invoice and how much. So really valuable just to make sure that we are invoicing, issuing those invoices on schedule and nothing is being missed. Additionally, I've created a filter here for invoicing, which we can see if we want to maybe prepare invoices after certain services have been completed, such as maybe our quarterly BAS. Then we would just really simply change the job state to for invoicing, and that's what I built this filter on. And we can then see a breakdown of all of those jobs here again. So really helpful getting these invoices out as early as possible so we can improve our cash flow. Now I'm going to hop back into the client we're working with today, Pip and Pop Partners. And we know from the job that we are on, so I'm just going to open that up. Now on that financial tab, we have some time, unbilled time accumulated for this client that we want to issue an invoice for. So if I click into the job, I'm on that financial tab, we see that breakdown once again here listed, and it's showing a preview of what that invoice is going to look like with the task and the descriptions. So we'll get a preview of this when we actually jump into Xero Blue once I approve it here, but it really makes it easy to see what there is to bill and decide which services I want to invoice for. Now, remember, I do want to show a separate line item for the BAS, so I have dictated that in the job setup for this client. But if I did want to show only a single line, that can be achieved as well. And you have a lot of flexibility in XPM, which can allow for different billing arrangements and cater for exactly what you want to show on the invoice. So it's just all within the setup to make sure that the invoice will include what you want. You can even have the timesheet narrations there if you'd like. But from here, we're going to do new progress invoice to send out to the client. And once again, I'm going to base it on our actual time and cost of what we've worked on. Go ahead and click next, and we'll see that breakdown of the estimated billings we saw earlier. It's based on the calculated price, but I could override that with a fixed fee as well if I would like to. And we see a breakdown here below. Now, when I'm happy with how this is going to be sent out to the client, I can go ahead and approve the invoice here in the bottom right. And when we click approve, the invoice automatically exports to our connected Xero Blue file. So what that really means is that now that we've gone through the kind of the key component of our best practice model, what we're going to do with sending our invoice to the client is from our Xero Blue file. And the reason being is that we're going to want to take advantage of a lot of the great features that we have in Xero, which make it easier for our clients to pay. So we have our online invoicing. We can include a payment gateway so that they have that pay now button on the invoice as well, and set up automated invoice reminders. So it's really easy to make sure that we're collecting payments as quickly as possible. Now, if I just open up Xero, which I have here in another tab, I have my practice Xero Blue file open. Under business and invoices, we can see that that invoice has been generated here. If I go to the awaiting payment tab specifically, we see it sitting here, and I can select a number of invoices in bulk to then email out to the client. So it's quite quick to do so from this screen. And if I just jump into the invoice itself, we'll see that same breakdown, pulling through the information from XPM. Don't have to retype any of the information here on screen. And we can see as well that it's pulling through all of that information, including the account. So it's going to our bookkeeping revenue, where it's been automatically tracked to as well. Now, if I just preview what this will look for our client, just under the share invoice, we have that green pay now option in the top right. So again, we have that payment gateway set up to encourage payment quicker. And we see a breakdown of that invoice here as well. Now, once that has been paid, the information will then also flow back into our XPM account so that we can keep track of our outstanding debtors, and we'll update that information on the client record in both places. So really just being able to manage that quickly and efficiently with not having to type in whether that invoice has been paid or not in XPM. Now, before we move on, as well here in the invoices section, one thing to note is if we do have instances where we have clients that are paying maybe a reoccurring fee, we have them set up on a fixed fee, rather than through XPM, we can start the process here in our Xero Blue file under this repeating tab. So we can set up the repeating invoice here quite quickly with the information that we may need, how often it repeats, the start date, maybe when it ends. And if I just jump into one here as well, we see a bit more of that information. Specifically, I want to point out just the reference field here. And what I have entered in here is actually the job number of the engagement in XPM. So it helps link this information back to that job that we have set up to track the work, but we're specifically managing the invoices through our Xero Blue file. So it's still achieving that automated process. We just don't have to worry about sending out that invoice from XPM. It will get generated from the Xero Blue side of things. Great. So we've kind of gone through now how we can go through our best practice engagement of getting our client set up on XPM and utilize for tracking our lodgements. One other thing I do want to just chat about briefly today is how we can make use of our management report templates in Xero HQ. So this can be done really quickly and efficiently. I'm just giving our clients a bit more insight into how their business is performing on a regular basis. And it also allows you to widen your service offerings if maybe you aren't doing so already today. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to use the demo file here in Xero Blue. So a lot of you have access to this today, so you can even test out some of this functionality that I go through. And what you can do with our management reporting is essentially utilize report templates, which are prepared at the practice level in Xero HQ to prepare some professional looking reports in just a few clicks. So it really saves us a ton of time when we need to generate that same report across maybe a number of clients. We can utilize that template and then just customize it specifically for that client if we do want to make any changes to the report. Now, under accounting, we see the reports that we can prepare maybe a one-off P&L or balance sheet, but this advisor report that I have starred is our quarterly management report template that I use across the practice. And essentially, I can just apply this to our client's Xero Blue file. And what we see is it's going to provide us an insight of what this looks like based on the time frame of last quarter, and it's going to automate a lot of the information through the reports that are sitting here on the template. I can add reports to customize this further if I do want to show maybe a breakdown of something specific for this client, maybe a P&L by different locations if they have a number of locations set up, and I've done that by tracking category to see a breakdown of how their business is performing across those locations. But if I just jump into the profit and loss, the budget variance report, we can see here how their business is performing against a budget, which is, again, really easy to set up in Xero Blue. Can be able to then track how the business is performing against that budget. And we can use the edit layout function here to customize this report a little bit further. So if I maybe wanted to group some of the expenses to show, just maybe pulling out a few that are key to show to the client that I want to keep an eye on, I can do that in the edit layout. I can add additional columns and rows there as well to really just customize this a bit further. And just another example might be through the account transactions report. Not super helpful to just see all of the transactions for the last quarter scrolling through this. However, in the report settings, we can customize this report quite quickly. Maybe just pulling, actually before I do that, maybe just pulling out some specific accounts, maybe the office expenses, for example, we'll update that, and just making sure that the transactions that are appearing here are in fact deductible. And I can add that information back in the executive summary to then chat about with the client when I send it out to them. But from there, if I'm happy with what the report looks like after a few clicks of customizing it for this client, we can publish it here in the bottom right. And it just allows me to make a few additional changes to what the report might look like. I might want to just change this to quarterly business summary report. We can see the contents, our logo pulling through. We can save that. And once it's published, our client can see it here in Xero Blue under the Publish tab. I can export it as well to PDF, Google Sheets, whatever it might be, to see it outside of Xero. We can just see a little bit of a breakdown of roughly what that looks like. Logo in the top right, our contents, and those reports thereafter. And we can also then send it out to our client quite easily from within the Xero Blue file. So I mentioned about document packs a little bit earlier. Not only that we can use this for the management reporting, but as well with our activity statements. If we want to send those out to our client, we can add it to the same document pack just from the 3-dot drop down in the top right to essentially mark the document up for signing quite quickly and add our activity statement to that as well. So I do new document pack. I might just call this, what's today's date? November 2021. Just create that. We'll add and close. The report is essentially now sitting in that document pack. And if I go to Xero HQ where they are managed, our document packs, we can just see a breakdown here of all of the different document packs we have ongoing for our practice, where they're at, whether they've been sent or completed. And I can even open them up, see the documents that are there. I can edit this management report and mark it up for signing with who specifically needs to sign it. I can add that activity statement directly from Xero Tax, the same way we did with the management report. So really automated to have those documents here in succession. And we can also upload additional PDFs. So if we have documents outside of Xero we need to send to the client for signing, we can do that all in one go. And we can go ahead and send it out for signing from the top right here as well. And back in our document packs, we can manage that process. Once the client has seen that, signed off, we'll be notified as the staff member that sent it out, and we'll see that it's been completed here as well. So a really quick and efficient process to be able to manage our electronic signatures through document packs as well. If you have some questions about that or want to get it set up, if you aren't utilizing it today for your electronic signatures, definitely speak with your account manager. We have different package offerings when it comes to the number of signatories that you can utilize document packs for as well. Now, that's kind of really going through what I wanted to cover today in terms of how to utilize XPM for your common bookkeeping clients, how we can have that set up and utilize Xero Tax as well. So just a bit of a summary of what we've gone through today is starting off in XPM, setting up that job template is really going to be critical to our success. So if we use the template with the tasks, which are set up as our scope items, it will really help automate the job creation process and minimize the time spent on our administrative tasks. Now, under our best practice model, we created one job per client, which will help keep our job management simple and efficient, and it allows our staff then to focus on completing their meaningful work. And through the integration with our Xero file, we can make use of our online invoicing. So it really helps minimize our debtor days and automate the invoice process from start to finish. And lastly, we just took a really brief look at how we can make use of the advisor report templates in Xero HQ to widen our service offering. So ultimately growing our business, helping our clients stay on top of how their business is performing as well. Now, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about getting set up on Xero Tax, XPM, report templates, really anything that I've covered today, again, we definitely recommend reaching out to your account manager. We have a number of resources to help get you guys set up in all of these aspects. Specifically when it comes to XPM, we do offer a monthly workshop, which is restarting in the new year. So we have one specifically for BAS agents. It provides a full day event where we go through the best practice setup, as well as some tailored training for you and your staff to get successfully set up and utilizing XPM for your practice. So we'd just like to thank everyone for taking the time to go through the end-to-end demo today. I know there was maybe a few questions that popped up. I think I saw in the Q&A box throughout, but really appreciate everyone taking the time and happy to answer maybe some outstanding questions.
Thanks for that whirlwind tour of Practice Manager. We do have one question from Emma. If you set up a recurring invoice in Xero Blue, this doesn't seem to link with the recurring job that may be set up in XPM. Would it be better to set up the recurring job with the set fee in XPM first?
Yeah, great question. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to have the job set up in XPM to start. So you have that job number available. So as we saw, I think it was like J00008, that is what you would enter into the reference field in Xero Blue for it to then match against the engagement or the job that you have set up in XPM. It typically happens overnight, and it does require in the settings of your XPM account for that to be switched on to pull the invoices across automatically. So if you are having issues with that, if it sounds like you're doing that process and it's not working, just let your account manager know. They'll be able to make sure that you have the settings in your XPM account set up properly to pull those invoices across. But it should happen automatically when you're entering that reference number in the, that job number in the reference field.
Okay, great. So you mentioned, for the solo practitioners who are maybe not quite ready for XPM to check out Xero Projects, which is built into Xero Blue. So just tell us a little bit about, who XPM is appropriate for. So maybe not the solo practitioner, but, at what point are we ready to really look at using XPM, and give us an idea of the setup process, because we've obviously jumped into a file today that's got clients and jobs, but if people are not using it already and they're keen, just speak a little bit about that sort of setup process.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. So I think to start, XPM is typically best utilized when there are staff members involved that you need to keep track of their work and their time spent against the jobs they've been allocated. So Xero Projects can help to that in an extent, but you'll have a lot more flexibility and customization through XPM. So if you are looking to maybe hire staff in the next 2 to 3 months, getting set up on XPM might be a good start, even if you are a sole practitioner today. But if you are going to be continually working on your own, Xero Projects might be the way to go for sure. And when you have those staff members, you're set up wanting to utilize XPM, maybe you have 2 or 3 staff, that's really kind of where we see a lot of BAS agents wanting to start utilizing XPM, and when it's going to be kind of best utilized to them as well in terms of being able to track that work for multiple people within the firm. Now, a bit more on the setup process is we always recommend a guided implementation when it comes to setting up XPM. So as Joe kind of pointed out, we had showing XPM with clients and jobs already set up and everything. And there's quite a bit of setup work when it comes to XPM that can be really easy when it comes to engaging our team to help out with that process. So there is some self-guided implementation options available out there. It's not really something we would typically recommend because there is just a lot of tiny settings within XPM that we just typically recommend changing that we go over throughout that workshop. So attending the full day workshop is definitely something that we recommend to most accountants and bookkeepers to get set up on XPM efficiently. And we also provide that tailored training. So we have separate training for tax agents as we do to BAS agents. As we know, you're going to be utilizing it a bit differently in both scenarios. So we account for that as well. So if it is something that you're interested in, we typically just go through a 45-minute session, just learning a bit more about your practice, how you are set up today and managing your workflow so that we can just make sure that throughout the workshop, you get the best experience and get set up on XPM as quickly as possible. So definitely something that we'd recommend and the approach that we would recommend people to go forward with.
Great. Okay. All right. Any other questions, people? We've covered a lot of ground very quickly, but it's great to get an overview of the synchronizing between Xero Tax, XPM, Xero Blue, and to see how easy it is to streamline your workflow and automate processes. So yeah, definitely something to look at for those who've perhaps got a few staff and needing to get more efficient. So we haven't talked about pricing. It is free once you are a silver partner. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Exactly.
So if you are not yet a silver Xero partner, but wanting practice management tools, you will need to pay, but then it becomes free once you reach silver status. So you can set up and pay for it now, but obviously if you're it's better to be silver status and get it for free. What else do we need to cover? There is a lot more available in XPM. I mean, I have used it, so I've seen, what we saw today was really a bit of an overview. There's great reporting available, a lot of customization available in the jobs and tasks. Yeah, it's I'm a fan, I will admit, having used it as part of a bookkeeping practice, and it just made communications and status visibility, assigning jobs, it just worked brilliantly. I'm now a solo practitioner, so it's not so relevant for me now, but having used it as part of a practice, I can definitely attest to its efficiency. So anyway, any other questions, people, before we wrap up? Last call. We've probably, maybe that's a good thing, Jared. You've covered everybody's questions along the way.
Hopefully.
So, all right. As usual, we'll get the recording up usually early next week, mid next week. If you do want to check back to anything, and I will add a couple of links onto the website as well for people to investigate further. But as Jared has said, if you're already in Xero world, your best contact is your account manager. If you're new to Xero, I'll get some links from Jared to point you in the right direction. All right, thank you so much. Great to get that overview, and thanks for being part of our tech talk. And for everybody else, we don't do one in December, and so I'll see you again late January for the tech talk then. So, all right, thanks, Jared.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, no, thanks for taking the
everybody.
time.
Yeah, great.